Hi, my name is Mosie Mamaregane. I am an actor, a writer, a vocalist, and a creative director, originally from Limpopo, Seshego Zone 2. I started my acting career 15 years ago, so I've been in the theatre industry for 15 years now at the National School of the Arts, and then I went on to study at the Market Theatre, and then from the Market Theatre, I joined a theatre company called Kwasha Theatre Company. And then I did Hooked on Books, which is another children's theatre company. And then after that, I started teaching at the Market Theatre. So it's been quite an extensive journey within these 15 years. I think coming from a single parent household sort of allowed me to see the strengths that a lot of women carry. And growing up, obviously, you're sort of not aware of what the dynamics of, growing up in a single household looks like until you actually grow up and you're like, oh, Jesus, this is like what a lot of women are going through. I mean, I don't have kids of my own, but I could sort of see the sort of like stuff that my mom would have to sacrifice maybe for herself in order for us to have certain things, or for us to go to good schools and for us to get like good education, and just always sort of encouraging us to pursue our gifts. She always mentions that when you're born with like your hands closed, and those are the gifts that God has given to you, and it's important that you sort of allow those gifts to flourish. And everyone is born with a gift or a talent. I don't think God places us here with nothing. We just really have to find it, and I'm glad that I have sisters and a mother who encouraged me from a very young age. I used to stay in front of the television. I think I knew almost every song we used to play on Trace, MTV, and so yeah, those are sort of like the building blocks of like what shaped my interest in the arts. And at the time, I didn't know that this was something that I could sort of like go to as a way to sort of get away from what was probably happening at home or things that I didn't understand at the time. But I realized that it worked, and it helped me be who I am and where I am today. And I'm grateful that I actually got introduced to the arts at a young age without knowing, for it to find me later on. So I think that was quite phenomenal. Yeah. Patience. I think a lot of artists forget that things cannot happen instantly. And so when I look at what's happening for someone else, I feel that, oh no, why is it not happening for me? Like, why am I not popping? Like, I thought I was good at this. Family. So it's a little bit difficult sometimes to accept what sort of God has placed in your life, or the purpose that you're supposed to fulfill on this earth, because of the things that we want, right? Like, we want instant gratification. We want to get things quickly. I want to be able to pay my rent, and on top of that, I still want to be able to live a good lifestyle. So there's a lot of pressure that comes with being in the industry, and I think the theatre disciplines you. It sort of puts you in a trajectory of understanding that everything has a time, right? Because you work with different people in the theatre space. You work with lights, you work with stage managers, you work with costume designers, and everyone has to play a role. And as an actor, when everything else is happening around you, we have to stop and wait. And I think that practice into my life sort of allowed me to sort of garner that patience and to understand that there's a time for everything, and to live in the moment and accept the things that I can accept. And if I can't change anything, I did my best, and that's it. For me, I think in order to understand something or to master something, I have to teach it. So I teach theatre for young audience at the Market Theatre, second years. I teach directing, introduction to staging, children's theatre, and that allows me then to have an understanding of what I can do even better. Because then I can see it through someone else, and then I can see how I would do it differently and how my voice would be different when I'm on the other side of the room, and not when I'm in front of an audience, but when I'm the person that's sort of like directing a play or teaching, students. And that really feeds a lot into my character work. And I watch a lot of films. I watch like 3-4 films a day, and I watch them for the sole purpose of just looking at what other actors are doing. Not just for the entertainment value of it, but just to really engage with what a lot of actors are sort of like putting into the work that they're doing on screen and off screen. And yeah, those are basically the things that inspire me, film, and I'm really into like visual arts as well. I like how things look. And I think that if I can sort of have an idea or a vision of what a character looks like, it's easier to tap into the emotion and the background of the character, because there's already sort of like a laid out vision of this world. So there's a whole character background that you have to sort of build for yourself. And I always say to my students that, you don't have to go and want to become an actor. Find out about things that are happening in the world, like learn about politics, learn to cook, do stuff, live a life, garner things, like get knowledge, so that when you portray a certain character, it's as truthful as possible, because you've sort of experienced the little minute details of life. And yeah, that's how I go about what I do. Oh, that's a very tough one, especially when you touched on the whole couch casting thing, because I can sort of like attest to that there have been incidents where, you're forced to do certain things that are probably outside of your nature. And the reason why I probably have stepped away from a lot of social media, entertainment, television, is because there's certain briefs that just don't align with my morals and my values and the way I was raised. So like being naked on streets because I look good doesn't mean that, I should do it, and sometimes it's really about what you want and who you are, and not forgetting where you come from. But I think when it comes to my students, there's just a fine line between acting and understanding the world of acting. So we see actors every day, we want to become actors, and then when you're inside the world of acting, it's a whole new journey, it's completely different. And I think for me, it's just shaping sort of like the skill that comes with acting, and teaching the little things that a lot of actors sort of don't input into their skills, or impart into their skills, when they're on set or when they're in theater. So doing the work at home is sort of what I'm teaching back to actors, that you don't just get on set or on theater and you're like, yeah, I have read my lines. There's an intention behind the line. There's a whole background behind the line. So I think sort of imparting some sense of like a skill and a knowledge on how to approach acting is really what I find quite inspiring. And for them to really understand it, and not just understand it as something that could be cool, but as something that you could really sustain yourself off of, and something that could shape your entire life. It has inspired me a lot, so I felt that I need to share what I know of it, so that someone else can share it with someone else, and sort of like passing this thing down, and we are creating a batch of great actors, and not just people who look good because, they fit the brief, but actual actors, like real thespians. And I think for me, that's always been something I've been passionate about. I think with just to touch on the acting agency thing as well, is that there's certain skills that you can sort of like garner through an acting class, right? So you might not necessarily want to be an actor, you might want to be a voice coach, or you might want to help, I don't know, let's say maybe they have like a training at a corporate company where they need you to come in and help like their employees sort of speak or have presentations and whatnot, and then you can come in as a voice coach. So little things like that, where you can sort of like infiltrate the market and the business industry in the skill, or with the skill that you have within the arts. So that there are so many things that you can literally grab from it. But my thing is mainly focused on acting, because that's what I'm passionate about. And I do believe that you can do like behind the scenes, even on film as well, first AD, second AD. So once you understand the world of an actor, you really understand how to direct them better. And I think that that's sort of like what the agency is also trying to do for young people, that you don't have to sort of come to the classes because you want to be an actor, but that there are skills that you can sort of like grab that could help enhance the skills that you already have, in understanding how you can sort of sustain yourself from them. Yeah. Yeah. You touched on just how the space is so like not welcoming for women, in the sense that you're sort of expected to be a certain way, unemployment as well. And I think that there are stories that we need to tell of ourselves. It does not have to be a story of someone else who sort of lives in a distant land. It could be you and what you're going through. And sometimes these stories are stories that live within us, and we feel that we have to hide these stories because they're so painful and so traumatic, and they might be out of reach for someone else, or people won't be able to relate. It's not cool. So I think for me, it's more like of an internal story, so that you need to sort of allow yourself to tell that story through whatever medium. You don't have to tell it directly. You can use certain creative ways of telling it. Obviously, you know, you're not going to go there and say, this is what happened to me. But there are certain ways to do that. And I think letting those things out allows for those stories to live and to continue living on, and so that you don't die with things inside of you, the good and the bad. And I think that those can also lead you to the light. Read. Read. Open a book, read. Watch the news. Listen to people. Have conversations with people, and not just specific people. You know, have conversations with anyone and everyone. Understand the world around you, and open yourself up to things, and feel. You know, that's all I can tell you. And if you really, really want to take it seriously, then start attending workshops. So if now we're talking about the practicality of it, but just the inspiration of it, just really find out about the world that you live in, and you will have a whole new perspective. And once you get into it, it's easier.